Hello, my dears. Daniela here, and welcome to the Spa Marketing Made Easy podcast. This episode is brought to you by Atto Aesthetics, the #1 coaching company for aesthetic professionals wanting to step into the role of spa CEO. And today is my birthday. How fun. So I wanted to do something a little bit different. And in the past, I've done the things I'm grateful for. I think when I was 35, I did like 35 things I'm grateful for. I've shared kind of the top lessons that I learned this decade. I've done different things like that. But as I'm moving more into my 40s, I wanted to really just kind of pull back the curtains a bit and let you get to know me as a person more. What drives me, what motivates me in business and in life. So it really worked out perfectly that one of my favorite people, who also happens to be a client, recently interviewed me for her podcast, Mindset Great. Mechelle Barras, she's an incredible coach. If you haven't subscribed to her show, I highly recommend doing that. She is an absolute inspiration. So what we're going to do here today is actually play Michelle's interview that she did with me. So I hope you like it. I know it's a little bit different than the things that we do, but perhaps it'll give you some insight into, why I'm doing the things that I'm doing. Anyway, I hope you enjoy it, and I'm wishing you all so much love. Thank you for letting me get to do what I do every single day. That's the greatest, greatest gift.
So welcome to the Mindset Great podcast, Daniela. You are my coach. You are an inspiration to me. And I thought there is no one better than a true expert in my world of everything to bring on the show for empowerment for someone who has pushed not only myself, but who I see continually pushing more women to step into their powerhouse, becoming the spa CEO, to becoming their life CEO, you really move women in a positive direction. And for that, I thank you. And I want to showcase you today in my podcast. I know you've had me on yours before, and it was a wonderful opportunity for me. And I want to be able to repay that back to you and show you how important you are, not only to my life, but to my listeners who have reached out and to other people who are searching for the Daniela in their life, because you are truly a godsend. And I thank you every day. So welcome.
I'm blushing. What an intro. My goodness. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. And honestly, I feel exactly the same way about you. When I introduced you on our podcast, I was like, I remember the first time when you signed up for our program, and I told my husband, I was like, I've got someone that makes your drive look low. And my husband is like, PhD, active duty, like he gets stuff done. And I was like, this woman went to nursing school. She's a retired police sergeant. She's got a med spa, like all the things. Makes me look like I'm sitting around eating bonbons.
No, but you're not.
No, I'm not.
So when I talk today, I want to talk about women's leadership and entrepreneurship, because you are a key speaker and player in that field. Whether you give yourself that credibility or not, you really are making that impact in women's leadership. And as we're in March with women's leadership and everything that's happening, this is an opportune time to really let women know that they can make a stand in this world, and that it's not something that happens overnight, everything that we have going on in our life. So can you tell us how you got started into this world of entrepreneurship and coaching, and what started and how long you've been doing it?
Yeah. Gosh, first of all, I just have to say that I believe in female entrepreneurship to the core of who I am. And I just happen to be in spa, but women are opening businesses at a faster rate than men. When women do well in business, there's all kinds of studies that show that they give back in bigger ways to their community. They're impacting more. They care about social change. So I feel that the more females that step into leadership roles in companies or in their own businesses, the better the world will be. And knowing that now that I am in my 8th year of being an entrepreneur, and I define myself as an accidental entrepreneur. So I had it in my blood. Like I always knew that I wanted to have my own business, but I'm 40, I'm almost 41. And in my mind, I always thought, oh, maybe when I turn 40, when I get around that age, I'll start my own business because then I'll have enough experience, or because then, some magical thing will happen that I'll finally feel worthy to teach what I want to teach or say what I want to say. And life just didn't happen for me in the exact way that I had planned out. I was working in a spa as an esthetician in a medical spa, Love and Life. And I got divorced, and this is on Maui. Maui is a very small island. I didn't want to stay on the island after being with someone for 9 years. And I said, okay, I'm going to go and explore the mainland. I'm going to explore this whole other rest of the country. And in doing that, I, had some great opportunities with spa. And I also met my now husband, Kyle, who is active duty military. This is about 10 years ago at this point. And when I met him, he was in school in Boston. And so it just felt like, oh yeah, my husband's it was like normal life, right? It was not like, this is active duty. This is what it means to be a military spouse. And then I was in what I would call a pinnacle job, a dream job that I loved. I was working as director of medical services for Belasante. It's a 3-location med spa, or 3-location day spa, med spa. They brought me on to open the med spa portion. So I was, finding the doctor that we partnered with, buying the lasers, bringing in the skincare products. I was training the medical aesthetics team. And I still had like 3 days a week that I was seeing patients. And so I felt like there were all these boxes that were checked, like all these parts of my life that were being fulfilled. And then Kyle came home and was like, we're moving to DC in 5 weeks.
Oh,
And also keep in mind, our wedding was in 8 weeks. So
okay.
it was like, all right, so welcome to the military. and here we go. And for those that are not in the spa world or in any business that you need a license, my kind of expertise was in medical aesthetics. So I did a lot of light and laser devices. If you asked me to do a regular facial, you probably would go somewhere else because that is not my strong suit. But you want me to zap something, I got you.
Right.
So knowing that, and knowing that we would be moving, so many times, typically every 12 to 18 months is normal for a military family. And we actually moved more than that. But the state that you're in, the scope of practice, there's a lot of places where an esthetician is not able to do a lighter laser device. And so there was a lot of uncertainty in my career. And so the option was go to nursing school or become an entrepreneur. And at this point, I was making a great salary as an esthetician, debt-free. And I thought, if I go to nursing school, I'm going to be at least 60 grand in debt. And I'm going to be making the same amount of money as a nurse. Right?
You are correct.
And I still would have to, get licensed in every state. Every time I would move, I would have to understand. There are even states that even a nurse can't do some of the services, right? So it felt like this uphill battle. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to just figure this out. And my first year in business, I did a whopping $20,000 in the entire year. Not what I paid myself, what the entire company brought in the year, $20,000. And I felt like such a loser. But it motivated me of like, wow, I have so much to learn. And so I dedicated so much time and energy into learning about digital marketing, learning about personal development, learning all of these things. And that is, 8 years later, here I am.
Where do you think your mindset was at that stage of the game? I know you submerged yourself into digital learning and self-development. Did you feel like your mindset was on the right path of, yes, you can do this, or did you still have some self-doubt going into it?
I had a lot of self-doubt. I did, because for me at that time in my life, it was really like most of my 20s, I really struggled with associating the amount of money that I made with my value. And I lost my dad when I was young. I was 17 when he passed, and he was a successful entrepreneur. And I knew, well, when my dad was this age, this is how much money he was making. And when my dad was this age, this is what he was doing. And I felt that if I wasn't making a 6-figure salary, then I could, because you're always supposed to do better than your parents, right? That's the kind of the American dream. You got to do better. And when you have a parent that is very successful, but then they're not there to guide you and tell you, like, the amount of money that you make has nothing to do with your value as a human being. Zero. Right. And I didn't know that. And so I feel like it was kind of my life lesson to go from making a good salary to making $20,000 in my company and not paying myself, because I needed to learn that piece, that my value is how I contribute to society, how I contribute to my family, how I interact with others, like these things that have nothing to do with who you are or how much money you're making. And so for me, my mindset was still working through understanding that in that space. I will say that I am type A. I am competitive. And I like to be the best at what I do. And I think that is a natural. I was kind of raised that way. Like, you always push yourself to be the best version of yourself. And so I got that from that. And so when I started as an entrepreneur, I was like, wow, I've always been really successful in my career because I had all of this other help and support. And now when I'm doing this on my own, I don't have someone that I can say, hey, can you make this? Can you do that? Can you do that? No, I've got to do it. And so it was definitely a learning experience for me. But thankfully, I had some business besties that really helped support me and let me know that everything I was going through was normal and just keep going.
Yeah, that kind of leads me into the next one. What was your support system? Where did you find that? Was it with a community of women, or did you find that with your husband or the network of military wives?
I do have to say my husband has always been my biggest supporter, and that is something I'm incredibly grateful for. He has never once made me feel like, if I'm like, I want to do this or I want to do that, he's like, great, go for it, and just incredibly supportive. Even in the first year when I wasn't making any money, and he was like, you got it. It takes time. It was never like, you've got to contribute. And that was hard for me too, because I always have been a very independent person and completely relying on my husband financially, which is a tremendous blessing that I had that opportunity to have I didn't have to worry about putting food on the table in year one. I know a lot of entrepreneurs do. And, so I had the huge advantage that I didn't have the pressure of putting food on the table the first year. Right. And because if I did, I wouldn't have made it. But he's been incredibly, incredibly supportive. And I actually, because we move so frequently, I feel like I have friends all over the world, but I don't have very many friends wherever I live.
Right.
And so they're not always in the same place. So when we first moved to DC, I joined like a female entrepreneurship meetup group. Like if you go to Meetup and just find those local groups. And I went there, and it was through one of those groups that someone introduced me to one of my most dear friends, Tara Zerker. And Tara and I, we've known each other 8 years now. We had our babies together. We've built our businesses together. And she and I just connected because she had lived in Hawaii for a long time. And we both had that same mindset. But she was always just like 1 or 2 years ahead of me. And so to have someone kind of going through this same entrepreneurial journey, her spouse also works for the government. And so they move a lot as well. And so that was something that we just had this connection. And she has been just a instrumental friend in my growth.
Wonderful. I love it. So when you were first starting out, you started out doing individual coaching, or how did you?
No. From 2014 to 2017, my primary business, and I will say my first year was, you guys know how my first year was, but my second and third years were very good. It took that first year just to figure out what the heck I was doing and all of that. And then, the business really started growing after that. But I was focusing on consulting. So when I was working in the spa setting, I was very good with selling retail. And so I knew that I wanted my business to be something around retail. I thought, oh, I'm excellent at this. I have a great retail to service percentage. I can, this is something that I can teach. And I know that this is something that people will want because it makes them more money. And so I actually started working with the skincare companies. So the top physician dispensed skincare brands, I got in with one, and this industry is so small that, I just got referred. And I was speaking at their events. I was doing marketing research for them. I was participating in new product launches, just a pretty large gamut of consulting projects that I was doing for these brands. And it wasn't until 2017, I still dabbled with like creating a Facebook group and doing this, but I never really like went into the world of digital, of coaching until 2017. Okay. So my daughter, that was when I got pregnant with my first daughter. And we were living in Hawaii at that time. And most of the skincare companies are either in the Los Angeles area or New York. And so traveling back and forth between those companies, and then I was consulting with medical spas. So a medical spa would bring me in and I would train their team. So in the US and in Canada, I was traveling a lot, and I was living in Hawaii. And I said, you know what? When I have this baby, I don't want to be traveling all over the place. Like I'm choosing to enter this season of life. I'm an older mom, and not that matters at all, but it's just something that I've waited a long time to enter this phase of my life. And I want to be fully present for it because it's very intentional. And so I said, I've got to pivot and create a business that works around the life that I want to live. And so I already knew initially when I had first started my business, the number one thing is that it had to be location independent. And now having a baby, it needs to be location independent, but I don't want to be traveling all the time. And so that's when I really pivoted and did my first online course.
So for women looking to start in the world of entrepreneurship, first piece of advice obviously is getting clear on your niche and what you want to focus on. But where would you tell someone to focus next? Or what is their next action step in order to, not even if it's in entrepreneurship, but just to really create the life they want, to live with the intention and the purpose that, while I started young as a mom and you started older, I think that you have the advantage because your patience, as we get older, we get more patience. Whereas as a young mom at 19, I didn't have that patience where you have that now, and you've built yourself up with the ability of working 3 days a week so that you have that time, or we have to for 3 days, right? You're not working 4, are you?
So Mondays and Fridays are blank.
Okay.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are my call days. And I will do either like a half day or, or if I'm having like a call with my girlfriends, that's kind of a work call, but not really a work,
Right.
those kind of things. But Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are my busy work days.
So for a woman wanting to create that balance in her life and wanting that, where do you suggest that they start in order to really focus in on creating their life of what they want, whether that's in spa world or in personal world?
So look, you started in saying first you got to figure out your niche. I actually disagree with that. I think first you need to figure out what you want your life to look like.
Okay.
And that is the most important thing for me. Now, my priority, I value time above money. I love money. I love nice things, but my time is my most valuable asset. And family is my top priority, right? I know that, my kids are almost 2 and 5. I'm like, how did that even happen? Luca's going to be 2 next month. Taya's going to be 5 the beginning of May. And I'm just like, this is going so fast. And it's kind of this weird thing. I tell my husband, like, you know how you have like dog years and it's like a dog year is like 7 years.
Right.
It's like you have kid hours, like you have an hour with a kid and it seems like 7 hours. You're like, that's only been 15 minutes. And,
maybe that's how we aged back in biblical times, was by the hour.
but I'm like, oh my gosh. But then it feels so long when you've read the potty books like 30 times in a row. And then you're like, but wait, how did she get to be 5? Time is just such a crazy thing. So anyway, my family is my top priority. There's things that I have very clear boundaries that I won't budge on. And so I actually go through and we kind of chatted about this a little bit before the episode started, but of kind of looking at your calendar and understanding what your priorities and commitments are. And I, every single year in August or September kind of timeframe, I do a in-depth calendar audit. And I would suggest this if you are making a career change or saying like, I need to change my life. You don't have to wait till August or September. Do it next month, and just really look at what do you need time for? I personally want to take my kids to school 1 day a week. I have a hard stop at 4:00 on the days that I work. We eat dinner together every single night. I have these things that are important. I don't want to work on my kids' birthdays. When my husband, because he's active duty, there's like federal holidays that he has off. So I'm blocking all of those things off. So I go through and block all the things that are important to me. And then I say, all right, this is how much time I have to work. How am I going to fill that? What business do I want to build, or how am I going to fill that with something that aligns with me creating the life that I want to live? I think so often we say, oh, here's what I'm going to do for work. And I build my life around that. Mm-hmm. And then we have stress and anxiety and overwhelm and all these things that actually make you worse in performance at your job. When mm-hmm. you feel balanced and rested and inspired and excited to go to work, you do 1,000,000 times better.
Oh, yes.
1,000,000 times better. So why not just start from the beginning and flip-flop it and allow yourself to do something that you truly love? From there, you pick your niche.
I agree with that. I agree with that completely. So you recently did a podcast about planning your focus. It was the planning series that you had. Mm-hmm. And you talk about becoming clear on your commitments, which kind of falls into creating that life you want. Can you get into that a little bit more for me?
Are you asking about creating your commitments personally or business-wise?
I think that for me, if you find commitments in your personal life first, that helps balance your business life. Because for me, I prioritize personal life before I prioritize business life. And that way I feel more rounded. So I guess a mediocre combination of both.
Yeah. So I think it just goes back to what I was just saying, that like, for me, I 1 day a week, I'm picking up my kids, or taking them to school. And when I first started this 4-day work week, this was, I change it every year. It depends on the season of life that you're in. Right. So right now my daughter is in preschool, but my son is not. So I wanted an extra, there's doctor's appointments. We've got, my dog is sitting back here. So taking my dog to the groomer, getting the oils changed for the cars, that there's all these things in life that it's like, they expect, like life expects you to do all of these things and work a 40-hour work week. Like when are you supposed to do that? So this came out of the fact that I just need one full day. That's like an appointment day that I can make all the doctor's appointments and do all those things that I just listed off. And so I said, how am I going to adjust my schedule to make that work? Right. Next year, I may go back to 5 days and have shorter time span, or 4 days and have shorter time span. However, I want to do that, So I think it's just really understanding what season of life that you're in, going through understanding what you want, and then seeing how much time is on your schedule to add in, what brings you the most joy. So right. For me, like in my personal life, I had mentioned those things, but in my business life, I enjoy working directly with the women that I coach. So I told my team, I only want to be on my coaching calls and do my podcast. I don't want to do anything else. So we're going to take everything off my calendar, because then I can be so good at those things. And it's so funny because I was just talking with Giselle and our team yesterday, and I was like, how do I find this thing on Facebook? And it's like, because I haven't done anything with Facebook for so many years, where I used to be like the expert with it because I did all the Facebook stuff. Now I don't even know where to find this thing.
Yeah, because that's going to lead me to, where's your type A turn off to allow everyone else to do this?
It's, I have Sheryl Sandberg to thank for that, because done is better than perfect. Right. So when Lean In came out, I realized like, okay, there was this part in the book that really hit home to me, because she was talking about the way that her husband folded the towels. And being in spa, I have a very particular way that I like the towels folded.
Yes, we do.
And that translated into my personal life and in my home. And I'm like, the towels go like this, and then they're in the drawer, super neat, and they're all the same size. And then Kyle just stopped folding the towels. And he's like, I'm either going to fold them the way that I fold them, and you're just going to deal with it, or I'm not going to fold them because I don't want to be told that I'm doing them wrong.
Right.
And I was like, but this way is so much more efficient. And when I read her book, she was like, my husband doesn't fold the sheets the right way, but do I want the help from getting the sheets folded? Or do I want to just, be on my own? And I said, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, who really cares how the towels are folded? Right. It's about like, I still care a little bit, but it's,
I secretly cringe on the inside.
Yes, but I have to let that go. Because when you really do focus on like, what am I actually doing here? What's the impact that I'm making? How am I connecting and bringing positivity and support to an industry that I care about? Is it really going to matter if my towels are folded the right way? Or is it really going to matter if X, Y, or Z, right? Like, you just have to zoom out and look at the bigger picture and understand, like, at the end of the day, if this happens, it's not the end of the world.
Right. I like that. So let's talk about this wonderful opportunity that you are doing with your business, Atto Aesthetics, that I think is great. You're doing a scholarship opportunity. Am I saying that right? A grant opportunity.
Grants. Yeah.
Grants. Yes. Grant opportunity
Mm-hmm.
for women entrepreneurs in the beauty world, correct?
We are. So, I've spent the past however many years since 2017, really focusing on how am I going to teach women in the spa industry how to create financial freedom, how to create time freedom through running a systems-based business. So I guess that's where my type A comes into the systems.
Right.
And I feel like we've done a lot of good and helped a lot of spa owners make a lot more money. And that is a way that I feel like we're elevating the industry, which has been the vision of our company from the beginning. But we're so blessed to be in a financial position now that we can give more, we can do more. And I know for an entrepreneur, sometimes so we're actually partnering with the Liberty Foundation for women, which it's really this full circle moment because Andrea Klein, who is the founder of this company, she's actually been a longtime client of ours, and we helped her retire from her spa. So she did the work, but we were really there to kind of guide her and give her the step-by-step process of how to get out of the room, how to get your business operating on its own. And we did that for her in about 18 months. And she got to the point where she's completely out of the room. She works for about 10 hours a month on that business. And she now has devoted her life to sharing the stories of other women really in entrepreneurship of what freedom means to them. And she started this foundation with a goal, a mission to give 1 million in grants to female entrepreneurs every single year. And it just really resonated with me in such a deep level. Freedom is such a big passion for myself. Entrepreneurship has given me freedom, right? It's always a choice, but being married to someone who is active duty, which I feel is a great honor to serve this country, entrepreneurship gave me the freedom to have a career that I loved, a career that I can impact other people for,
Right.
It's not working at Target or working at, one of our team members, she's now in Okinawa, Japan. And she's like, you wouldn't believe there's like attorneys and like just highly educated women that are military spouses that are literally working at the Pizza Hut because they're choosing to stay with their families, which of course they're going to do that, right? Of course you want to be with your spouse and your children. So anyway, entrepreneurship really is something that's deeply meaningful for me in giving women the opportunities to earn their income and contribute to the world in a bigger, better way. And so we committed to donating 10% of our profits to the Liberty Foundation for Women with the agreement that Andrea's foundation would donate those revenues in $10,000 increments for grants for women in the beauty industry. So I'm really, really excited and obsessed with this. And I feel driven with a whole new purpose because $10,000, it's not a huge amount of money, but it's enough to hire your first employee. It's enough to invest in that piece of equipment. It's enough to be that catalyst that really gets you to the next level.
Right.
And so often, there's a lot of back and forth and different beliefs around debt, right? Some people are just not comfortable with it at all, or it's too big of a risk. A grant, you don't have to pay back.
Right.
Right. And so it's really for us, I feel like it's our way of helping these women that the beauty industry is incredible. There are really intelligent women in this industry and it's fighting. I feel we're also at the same time fighting the stigma that you can't be pretty and smart. You can't be, if you're in the beauty industry, it's because you're not smart enough to go to college. And I call BS.
Disagree.
Yeah.
Having a college degree, an esthetician's degree, and then a nursing degree. I would say aesthetic school was just as hard as any other class I took at any other stage of life, if not harder.
There's an emotional intelligence requirement,
right?
That is kind of one of those intangible skills that you've got to have. I mean, women are coming to us, telling us what they don't like about themselves. They're coming to us. They feel guilty already for doing something for themselves. There's a lot that comes into this industry, and we can give in such a big way, because when we give a woman confidence, watch out.
Oh, yes.
So it's a very important industry in what we're doing. And it's, for me, just an honor to be able to help in any way that I can.
I think that's great that you are doing that. And how long is this grant opportunity available, or how? I'll put everything link-wise in the show notes, but what is it that a woman who's listening in the beauty world who wants to apply to this, how do they go about doing that?
So we've got a link. There's a little video from me talking about what we're doing from the grants. Right now, we're just building our wait list for this. We're going to be starting the application process sometime in May, and we'll be announcing winners in late summer. And so we're going to start, I kind of feel like this is going to be an ongoing thing for me.
Right. I love it.
I feel like it's a really important piece that, yes, we can give you this skill, but here's a way also that we can just give you that extra little boost that's going to push you over the edge. And it really, in the middle of the pandemic, when Sarah Blakely, who's the founder of Spanx, she said that she's giving $5 million in grants to female business owners, and she's doing $5,000 grants. She just gave a ton of them, but she started Spanx with $5,000. And for me, it was like, wow, that is so powerful. This woman that has, I don't know what her company valuation, but it's hundreds of millions, if not in the billions of dollars of value.
Right.
And that started with 5,000. Right. So I know that that's, not every person's story, and not every person wants that, but look what you can do with that one little push. So for me, I feel like I want to spread the good as much as I can in my own way, in a world where there is so much uncertainty. This is something that we can control, where I don't feel like, hey, I'm going to solve world peace or world hunger or climate change or any of these big complex issues. I can help a woman find her freedom and help her family through the work that I'm doing. And if you do that in a ripple effect, that does change the world.
That just gave me chills. I really love that. I want to help a woman give her freedom. I think that's awesome. Wrapping things up with the Liberty Foundation, is this something that is stateside? Are you doing it worldwide? Because I know that you have people everywhere that you are in touch with.
Yeah, so that is really a question for Andrea's lawyers.
Okay. So will she be the deciding factor then? You're just helping get that launched. Is that right then?
So there will be an application process. Hint, hint, you're going to have to define what freedom means to you. So keep that out there. I imagine that it will be open worldwide, because she is actually right now on a world tour. She's in Venice, Italy, interviewing female entrepreneurs over there about what freedom means to them. She's got a lined up. She'll be going to Africa. She's meeting with a fashion designer, a woman in Kenya. She'll be in Asia as well. So she's really, this is her life's mission. She's connecting with women all over the world and highlighting the similarities that we have in the struggles of entrepreneurship, and also highlighting the things that different women in different parts of the world are facing. And so it's a really beautiful thing, but we will be, so these grants for the beauty industry, there will be an application process. We will be involved in that. I imagine that what's going to happen is Andrea and I will select finalists, and then we're going to put it to a vote.
Wonderful.
I don't want the task of having to decide who gets this. I want the peers in the beauty industry to hear these stories, get inspired by other women, and then they can select who is going to be the recipients of those grants.
Okay, perfect. Sounds like I need to talk to Andrea. She'll be my next on my to-do list.
Yeah.
For sure. So let me ask you this. As we move we're going into second quarter now, and the people that you work with are spa professionals.
Yeah.
Can we define or let our audience know, those who are listening, how they connect with you, what their avenue is in? Because I know that you have been, and I haven't shared this with you yet, but I just did my January reports. And from last year, 2020 to 2021, we had a 72.1% increase in revenue.
Holy, I love that.
I got teary-eyed. I haven't done February yet, but you truly have been the driving force behind, our med spa, and whether you give yourself credit or not, the driving force behind the Mindset Great podcast and me moving forward in that stage of entrepreneurship in my life. So thank you. So how do these spa professionals get in touch with you and get the magic of Daniela in their world?
There's a couple of ways. So I think the first place to start is just head over to our Instagram, @aesthetics. I think whenever you're working with any sort of coach or mentor, it's really important to understand personality type, right? I'm a very direct communicator. I don't like victim mentalities. I like action takers. I'm going to be there to support you, all the way, as much as I can, as long as you are the one taking action and doing the work, right? So that's why I love hearing your 71%, above. And I will, say, I'm so happy that I've been kind of alongside you in that journey, but you did that work. I pushed you. I, called you on anything that needed to be called on. I had tough conversations, but you actually did that. And so I look at my role as really being a coach and guiding and saying, hey, here's what you need to do. I mean, athletes have coaches, Oprah has a coach, presidents have coaches, no matter what stage of business you're in, having a coach is such a high value thing, but it only works if you have the right personality fit, right? So I would go to @aesthetics on Instagram and, check out our vibe, listen to our podcast. We've got a top 100 podcast. It's called Spa Marketing Made Easy. There is hundreds and hundreds of episodes with free education, free training for those in the spa world. And if you like what you hear, then consider, scheduling a call with us to learn more about the programs that we offer. We do tend to work with a little more established spas. Really our sweet spot is, those starting to build a team or considering to build a team and really wanting to build a company, not just create a job for themselves. So those are the type of people that we're really looking for and that really thrive in our environment.
Wonderful. I thank you so much for taking your time out. I know how priceless it is and how much you do value your time. So you taking the opportunity to actually connect with me on the podcast means so much to me. So thank you for joining us here on the Mindset Great podcast. And for those of us who want to keep the conversation going, they can head over to our Facebook group, the Mindset Great Empowerment Coaching for Women, and we will talk there and consider more empowerment series as we move forward into 2022.